Well, this is a Times Now exclusive. The US ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, has spoken 2 times now. He's made a massive disclosure, and that is that Tahawwur Rana, the Pakistani-Canadian terrorist who has been ordered by a US court to be extradited to India, will be extradited in 3 months' time. So that's a commitment coming from the United States to India in a major development about cooperation when it comes to anti-terrorism, and this is also happening in the build-up to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States in the month of June. Eric Garcetti, the US ambassador to India, has made a commitment that Tahawwur Rana, who of course has had a role to play in the 26/11 attacks, he will be extradited to India in 3 months from now. That is the Times Now exclusive. We'll get you that interview in just a very short while, but a whole host of issues discussed with the US ambassador to India, including of course the Prime Minister's visit, upcoming visit to the United States in the month of June, also the threat from China, the state of affairs in the Indo-Pacific, and of course cooperation between the two countries when it comes to terrorism. And one converging point is, of course, ensuring that Pakistan is, in fact, pressurized to expedite the 26/11 trial. And that apart, of course, cooperation also in bringing the perpetrators to justice, and that involves extraditing Tahawwur Rana, one of the plotters of the 26/11 attacks, who worked very closely with David Coleman Headley in perpetrating that attack. And he will, of course, be extradited in 3 months' time from the United States to India. A US court had already passed an order to that effect earlier this month, and now we actually have a timeline where that extradition of Tahawwur Hussain Rana will be carried out. So that will happen in 3 months. So approximately by the end of August or the first week of September is when we estimate that he will be brought to India, and hopefully there'll be more evidence that the Indian... So we have Eric Garcetti's interview with Srinjoy Chaudhary of Times Now. Let's in fact listen into what was said.
Eric Garcetti, US Ambassador to India. Sir, welcome to India. And it's a big moment for everybody because Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to be in Washington next month. Yes. Washington, New York, Chicago. What's the big idea? And what's the big moment that's going to happen?
Well, I think this is an amazing moment in US-India relations. I'd say the big idea is we're moving from partners to deep friends. Not just a transaction for a moment, but a relationship for the long haul. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, not only to show the warmth between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi, but also to see the warmth and the strength of ties between Americans and Indians. Technology, people-to-people, education, defense. We have an unlimited number of spheres, and you will see almost all of them, from space and the heavens down to the bottom of the ocean, an agenda for an Indo-Pacific that is peaceful, prosperous, protects the planet and its people.
Wonderful. Prime Minister and President Biden met in Hiroshima. Yes. They would have met in Australia. Then they are meeting in Washington. In September, President Biden is here, and he may be back again in 2024. It's a clear sign that the two countries are getting closer. And the Indo-Pacific is an issue. And a lot of times, the word Indo-Pacific is really a euphemism for China.
Indo-Pacific is a region much bigger than any one country. I'm from Los Angeles, which is on the eastern edge of the Indo-Pacific. Here we are near to the western edge of the Indo-Pacific. But there's common values that link us together, not just two nations, but all the freedom-loving nations who want to make sure there's freedom of the seas, protection of our planet, making sure that we have commerce, that technology isn't used to oppress people, but used to connect and protect people. So the Indo-Pacific has become a much larger agenda than just 2 countries or 4 countries talking about a 5th. This is about the potential of this region to change the world and be a force for good in protecting peace in the world.
But China continues to be a worry.
No question. Whether it's China or any country that doesn't respect sovereignty, borders, that is looking to unduly influence, steal intellectual property, other things, we must stand together to diversify and de-risk I think India wants a more peaceful relationship with China. The U.S. does as well. And we should work towards those things. But in the meantime, we're not waiting for anybody to develop a picture of what cooperation, rule of law, freedom and democracy looks like here and around the world.
Which brings us to terrorism. Surely America has been affected by terror. India has been affected by terror. A lot of democracies have been affected by terror. How can India help America and vice versa, particularly when it comes to cross-border terror?
Absolutely. Well, we're linked arm in arm. When it comes to counterterrorism work, we have never done this more strongly. You felt that impact. I was in Mumbai looking at the anniversary and the commemoration of the victims lost to the terrorist attacks there. Same thing in New York, 9/11. We are bonded by this trauma, but more importantly, we're not just suffering from it. We are saying we will do something to combat it together. Joint investigations, taking down the financiers of terror, as we recently just saw with somebody who has been accused of and now convicted of having helped the Mumbai attacks, being able to be extradited here to India. To us, this is about integrating our law enforcement, making sure that terror networks and the drugs that feed them are brought down wherever we see them. And U.S. and India together are stronger.
Tahawwur Rana, you referred to him. When is he being extradited? Because India wants him. India wants him very badly, and we want to know a lot more about 2611.
Absolutely. Well, Rana is a great example of our cooperation. The court has clearly said the extradition can occur. Under our system, you're allowed to appeal that, but we hope that it will be a matter of months, that it won't be a matter of years before that extradition occurs here, and that we can see justice served.
Absolutely. The other thing that India, despite having the United States as a very close friend and a partner, is worried about are these occasional reports from these human rights organizations that are tangentially part of the US government. I know that you don't look at it very much, but still, it's an irritant. What can be done to sort that out?
Look, I think good friends can talk about values that unite us. And we come from a place of humility. In the United States, sometimes we fall short. Sometimes we have incidents of religious or racist actions. It's not whether these events occur. It's how we react to them and make sure that we build societies where everybody feels included. Everybody feels that they belong. But we can do that respectfully. We can do that with humility. And we can make sure that it isn't about rhetoric. It's about results. So we'll continue to speak about our values, but we'll do it as friends.
Finally, sir, you spoke about racism and all that, even in America. Yeah. There have been a few attacks on Indians. They have to get sorted out.
That's right. That's case in point. That shows how democracies are difficult, pluralistic societies are complex, but it is how we react, how we are defined. In those moments when we see an Indian American who is attacked just because of the color of her skin or the turban that she wears, or he wears, excuse me, or others, that is a moment when we can show who we are as Americans and challenge the world to do the same thing in their country. But we stand resolute against these attacks against our Asian American brothers and sisters in the United States, especially those who are singled out because of who they are. It is unacceptable, and we must live for a day when they are no longer there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, let me go across immediately to Srinjoy Chaudhary. Srinjoy, that was quite a comprehensive interview, lots of issues that were touched upon, but the biggest takeaway, of course, is the timeline that the US ambassador himself has spoken about with respect to the extradition of the terrorist Tahawwur Rana. Well, Srinjoy, I think you need to unmute yourself. Well, we'll try to connect once again to Srinjoy Chaudhary, but he spoke a short while ago to Eric Garcetti, the US ambassador to India. He did speak about cooperation in multiple fields, but primarily terrorism as well. This is all happening, of course, in the build-up to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States towards the end of June. And one big development, of course, is the fact that Tahawwur Rana is likely to be extradited to India in a few months. Srinjoy, this was something that was already an order of an American court in the second week of May. That will be actioned, and we can expect him to be extradited in a period of 3 months. That's the takeaway from the interview. Srinjoy, if you can hear me. We'll get back in touch with Srinjoy Chaudhary once again. Lots of issues that were spoken about in that interview, including, of course, cooperation with respect to the state of affairs in the Indo-Pacific, China primarily, and, of course, other points of convergence, including fighting against terror. And, of course, the extradition of Tahawwur Rana is one very significant development that the US ambassador has spoken about.